Welcome to Ken's Corner Podcast, Season 4.
Hey everyone, we're back here on Ken's Corner. I'm here with Joe Moyer, my co-host for Sports Timeout, and we're back here to talk everything Leafs, Joe. So let's get started from our last spot we were at, and that would be, I guess, leading into Toronto versus the Pittsburgh Penguins last Saturday.
Lots to talk about. It's been, as far as I'm concerned, a really good start. We should be 4-0. Those damn Habs had a hot goalie that night, and we definitely outplayed them. 47-27 was the shots. But looking back, man, I'm having a bit of a different feel about this team this year. I don't know about you, but the way they're winning games, and I'm going to give Craig Berube all the credit in the world. That style is working wonders for them. They're clamping down defensively. They're not giving up as many odd man rushes. Their goaltending, and we're going to talk a lot about that because that's one of my favorite subjects, as you know, has been, as far as I'm concerned, top notch. So lots to be excited about to start this season.
Yeah, there's so much going on now. In that Pittsburgh game, that was a good game. That was a start for Anthony Stolarz, I believe. God, it seems like such a long time ago. I should go back and take a look at what happened in that game. But I do know that it was a well-rounded game played by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you can see that evidence. By the way, I want to say happy birthday to Matthew Nice. I believe today, as we're recording, is his birthday, 23rd birthday. Now, we got to see a bit of a showcase on what Matthew Nice is as a replacement for now Pittsburgh Penguin, Michael Bunting. What did you think?
Listen, Matthew Knies is on an upward trajectory as far as I'm concerned. He's a big, strong player. He's got an excellent set of hands. He's got a knack for goal scoring. And I think as he matures and gets bigger, the only knock on him is if he can drive to the net more, put that shoulder down, get a head of steam on the wing and come in and drive to the net more, he's only going to get more chances, and that means more goals. So I think he's a great fit, off to a really, really good start. And I'm happy he's under Craig Berube, because Craig Berube is going to teach him the right way to play, get to those dirty areas. Ken, I know we talked about it. You and I have been doing this for a couple of years, it seems. Get to those dirty areas and get the dirty goals. Maybe take a hit or two to do it. And that's one of the things the Leafs have not been able to do, especially come playoff time. So I'm excited for Matthew Knies. I think he's a bona fide, and even Craig Berube calls him a power forward. Play like a power forward. Drive to the net. Use your size and strength.
Yeah, in that game, it was very evident of the power that he has now. That extra 10 pounds that he put on, so he's on the one of the bigger guys in the NHL. He now stands at 6'3" and weighs 227 pounds. And I bet you Dougie Hamilton in that New Jersey game, just to go back a little bit further, wishes he didn't get in front of Matthew Knies. He bowled him right over, and we're talking about a 200-plus pound Dougie Hamilton to boot.
And isn't that what's been missing from the Leafs lineup, particularly come playoff time, is that size and that pushback where we're not going to be intimidated. Yeah, we can have a fourth line scrapper and a Ryan Reeves and all that kind of stuff, but someone on a regular line to create space, and that's what you need to do, especially for Matthews and Marner. Give those guys time and space to do what they do best, handle the puck, make plays, see the ice. So if you're out there clearing the way for those guys, perfect fit so far in that line. I can't say enough about the success I'm expecting now. As we know, didn't get a lot of points, but the way they played, and Matthews certainly had his chances, as did Marner, and they finally came through against the Los Angeles Kings this week. That line was great. 3 points each, I think, for Marner and Matthews to get off the schneid.
Well, Marner, going back with that Pittsburgh game story, Joe, to cut you off, he did start a little bit earlier than Matthews did. He scored a goal in that Los Angeles game. As William Nylander, he got 2 goals in that game. nonchalantly puts 2 goals in, and it was a good game from Matthew Knies again, who scored a goal, and it was a well-rounded Leaf team and we won the game 4-2. Now, like you said, we led into the Los Angeles game, and former Leaf Calgary Flame David Riddick seemed lost against the Los Angeles Kings.
Well,
against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't say I'm overly excited about the Los Angeles Kings goaltending. I'm not going to lie to you. It's funny because the LA Kings, beginning of last year and the year before, I thought they were a team that was going to be a Stanley Cup contender. And I'm not sure if just age has caught up with them, but they've sort of fallen off the map. I expected a better effort from the Kings. Now, I know they're on a long Eastern road trip, and maybe that's just part of it. But I wasn't impressed by their goaltending at all. I think there's a couple ones there where I went, oh boy, is that Ilya Samsonov in net for the Kings? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Even on, I didn't even see the goal for Matthews go in. I seen the fan and then the double clutch, and then where was the puck?
He faked everybody out and it worked, and that's how it's going to be throughout the season. But you're going to have your heads up when Matthews is on the ice, that's for sure, because that guy is just something else to watch, and he's going to get his points. Will he get 70 this year? Probably not under the style with Craig Berube, defense first, but he's just he's the most dangerous player out there, bar none, for the Leafs when he's out there.
Yeah. Now in this game against Los Angeles, lo and behold, here comes Timothy Liljegren. Now, before you say anything, I spoke to a mutual friend of ours, Paul Hendrick, and he says he just doesn't like the idea of throwing out the baby in the bathwater. So Timothy Liljegren has been a Leafs draft pick and brought up, and it's obvious that the Leaf management likes this player. In the $3 million contract they gave him, they could have easily have walked away from that contract, but they didn't. Now, what did you think of his play against the Los Angeles Kings?
I think he took a silly penalty, that cross check. I mean, he did okay. Did he do $3 million worth okay? No. Did he do maybe $1.5 million okay? Yeah, and that's where I have an issue. $3 million. He better be getting some points and carrying the play. I didn't see him carry too much to play. He was just okay. He didn't stand out as having an amazing, he really separated himself and is guaranteeing himself a spot in the lineup. I guess you could say the same for Connor Timmins. Connor Timmins is playing okay, but Connor Timmins has been a bit more defensively responsible. He's a larger body out there. I think he's also got a bit of offensive upside. We haven't really seen it. But, he didn't do horrible, but he also didn't make me go, wow, we got to keep this guy in the lineup.
Yeah. I think what it is, Joe, is they can't leave Timothy Liljegren out of the lineup for a long period of times. Even if they want to move him, it's going to be a lot easier if they have him in the lineup and teams can see that he's progressing maybe under Berube. But I think they have to keep him in that bottom pairing, the 5-6. That's where he's going to be more effective as a player. Now, I want to talk about the new fan favorite, Mr. Steven Lorenz, number 19. This man from a fourth line position played 15 minutes in that game against Los Angeles. What do you think of that? 15-minute fourth liner, Joe. Let's think of what this means for the Toronto Maple Leafs. When's the last time that's happened?
But that's Craig Berube. He wants to get as much equal time with four. He wants to run 4 lines, and if he doesn't have 4 lines he can trust, what's the point of having 4 lines if you're going to go down to 2 or 3? I get it if you're behind a goal and it's late in the third period and you're going to double shift your best players, but it is quite a nice change to see a fourth line that A, can be defensively responsible, but B, can also chip in with some offensive chances. And I think that's testament to Steve Lorenz for sure, Paul Maurice's favorite player. If you remember him saying that, that's high praise from Paul Maurice, one of my all-time favorite coaches, because he does everything so well. And I mean, the fact he's back home, he's playing in front of his hometown. I mean, he's a steal as far as I'm concerned. We've had that fourth line kind of piecemeal with different players over the last couple of years, hoping they would fit in. Listen, any power, anytime you're taking time away from Callie Yarncroke, I'm thrilled.
Well, hey, funny you say that. Now, Kelly Yarncroc is almost ready to get back. How in the heck
Yay!
do we get him in the lineup? It doesn't happen. He can't be activated as far as I'm concerned. So, what does that do? Does it lead to a trade? Something's
It
got
has to.
to shift, right?
You have Yanni Hockenpah, Connor Dewar, and Yarncroc all within weeks of returning. So there's going to be some tough decisions made. We talked about that on your last show, that someone's going to have to go. That's why I think the most logical person, if we can do it, is Liljegren, because that $3 million, that's a lot of money per season to tie up for someone that's a sixth line defenseman.
You see someone biting on that without having to sweeten it.
Why? Well, we might have to sweeten it, or we might have to cover half the salary. I'm not sure. I guess the Leafs were probably hoping that Liljegren came in this week and scored 2 or 3 goals and racked up a couple of points, and someone went, "Hey, we could use that offensive talent on the back end." It didn't happen. It may still happen. So I guess what you're saying, Ken, is they're probably going to try to showcase Liljegren where they can. But I think Craig Berube is all about, let's get these wins, let's get the right people, let's get flow. We got to build up these wins early, because you don't know what's going to happen later in the year, and it's better to be ahead of the game than trying to play catch up.
Yeah, I love it when you lead me into what I'm thinking next. Let's talk about the Leafs up 5-2. Craig Berube stops the play, timeout. In a 5-2 lead, they were winning 5-0, and he blasted his team. I've never seen that happen since, I don't know, Pat Burns, Pat Quinn.
You
What
can
did
look
you
it up.
think
It
of
has
that moment?
the conversation's online. You can look it up and see what he said, but it's not rocket science. It's wake the F up. Let's go. Let's get going. Get your head out of your you know what, and let's get up. Like, let's start, and it worked. The Leafs tightened things up. I think they scored the 6th goal. And that's how he's not going to tolerate. Because listen, you remember years ago, the Leafs would come up out of the first period, 2-0, 3-0, and then guess what? By the third period, 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, and they're going to overtime. And let's hope they get a point, fighting for a point against a team that they probably should have won handily, because they got a little bit too complacent, they got a little bit too lackadaisical, a little bit too cutesy. And Craig Berube saw that at 5-2 and had the guts to call out a timeout. I loved it. I thought this is what was missing with Sheldon Keefe. Instead of just crossing your fingers and letting them do it what they want to do, bring it back to reality and say, guys, you need to tighten up. We're not going to let this game get away from us, because quite frankly, LA was the better team in the second half of the game. They were out shooting them. They were carrying play. The Leafs kind of fell asleep there after they built up that lead. So I loved it. I thought that's what's one of the things we've been missing.
Yeah. Now let's move to our defense. And I mean, Chris Tanev is amazing to have in the lineup, but that doesn't need to be said. And we all feel the same about having Chris Tanev there. He's obviously making Morgan Riley look a hell of a lot better. But the player I want to talk about is Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Who would have thought that this guy was as defensively responsible that he is? Is that Paul Maurice that did this? Like, is this the same player that used to play for the Phoenix Coyotes and got a lot of points?
He's got a lot of mileage on him, and with that mileage comes smarts and experience, and that's what I see with him. He's a stabilizing factor back there, and I think when you have somebody like, I mean, the Leafs have coveted him for a number of years. They've tried to figure out a way to get him, and with his experience, I mean, you look at that defense now compared to it's 150% better. I mean, I like Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren, and the list goes on and on. 5'9", 150 pounds. That's not a defenseman. I'm sorry. That's not going to cut it in my books. So, we need to get bigger, tougher, stronger, and it worked. We've got it for sure. I mean, you look at Jake McCabe, Simone Benoit came out of the woodwork last year. These are guys that are going to make you. You're going to go to our net. You're going to pay the price. I love it.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, let's move to your favorite subject, the goaltending of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And guess what? Here comes Joseph Woll. He's almost injury-free and ready to step back into the limelight.
That's great. Anthony Stolarz will be our number 1 goalie this year. You heard it here first. I've said it in our last show. Stolarz just is technically, he is it's his time. He's 30 years old. He's due. You watch him technically, he's positionally sound. What I like about him is he plays the high shots really well. I mean, I rewatched some of the goals from the Boston playoff with Samsonov in net, on his knees and up over the shoulder, on his knees up time and time again, deep in his net. This guy, he's got great upper body movement with his glove, his blocker, his shoulders, does the chicken wing, and he covers the top of that net. So
Yeah,
that's not a sure
6'6"
thing.
helps.
Exactly my point. And getting a big goalie that moves well, his positioning is great. He doesn't have any. I don't see any weaknesses where teams are going to have him figured out. Whereas Samsonov, I thought, well, they know what they're going to do. They're going to fake it, wait till he goes down, put it up high, or just put a body in front, and he won't fight through the screen. Anyway, enough about Samsonov. I think Stolarz is the real deal. Joseph Wall worries me because you come out of training camp, played for most of training camp, he played half a game. So it wasn't like he was overworked. And then the season starts and he can't go. What happened to him? Like, that's concerning, is it not? Like, come on.
Yeah, well, it is. Is there a world where the Leafs can move on from Joseph Woll this year? Maybe waive him and let's go with Dennis Hildeby, the Beast, as their backup?
That's a great question, Ken. I think this year will tell. If Joseph Wall is in and out of the infirmary, I would say by halfway through the year, they'll probably just move. They'll have to come up with a plan B. And that plan B could still be Matt Murray if he ends up having a great season. He's a cheap option down in the Marlies as well. And if they don't want to bring Hildeby up because he's having a good season or whatever, they want to have more time. But I think this year will tell. If Joseph Wall can come in and hold his own and stay lockstep with Anthony Stolarz, then I think they've got a great 1-2 combination, because that's what goalies do now. They don't do 70 and 10 or 60 and 20. They sort of do a 55 and 35 type thing, split it. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm telling you now, I think Stolarz is the real deal, and I think when push comes to shove and the playoffs were to start tomorrow, Stolarz would be our starting guy.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's look forward. We play the New York Rangers this weekend, Saturday, and Monday night will be the Tampa Bay Lightning. Both these teams are very good quality teams. What do you see moving forward? Will Stolarz get both these games? Will the Leafs be able to compete with these teams?
I think yes. I think these will be two games that will be measuring sticks, absolutely. Especially the Rangers are off to an amazing start. They look fantastic. So I mean, the main thing is, can the Leafs? I mean, the Leafs did well against the Rangers last year as well. They tend to rise up to their opponent, which is good news. And it's a Saturday night game, so I'm excited. I think the Leafs can stay lockstep because of the defensive structure they play and because of the goaltending. Now, New York has a bit of a goalie themselves in Shesterkin, so they've got to
Yeah.
figure out a way to get in his grill a little bit. But the Rangers, I think, are probably top three for a Stanley Cup. The Leafs might be a little bit behind them, so these will be good measuring sticks. Tampa Bay, I think, I can't wait to see how we match up against them, because I think I'm anxious to see how they are without Stamkos, and I think Vasilevsky, like you said, has lost a bit of a step. So I think that Tampa Bay should be a team we should be able to start now going, okay, you're no longer an issue. Boston's the dragon we've got to slay, and of course, Florida.
Yeah, with Swayman coming back and Corpuscello hasn't looked bad winning his first game in Boston just the other night. Oh, by the way, did you see the 18th goal in NHL history by a goaltender? Philip Gustafson, I believe, from the Minnesota Wild. Wow, what a shot that was.
Yeah, I wish I could do that myself if I wasn't a goalie. If I was playing out, I don't think I could hit the net. He did it from pretty deep in his net, but hey, good on him. It was nice, good celebration. Unfortunately, the Minnesota Wild, I don't think are going anywhere, but it's a nice story, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. Now let's take a trip actually to Alberta a little bit here. Now, who would have thought the Calgary Flames looking to go 5-0, first time in franchise history, and Edmonton? They've actually had more allowed goals than they've actually scored. They've had 4 allowed goals and have scored 3 goals.
Disallowed goals.
Pardon me?
Disallowed goals, you mean?
Yes, disallowed goals. Sorry.
Yep.
4 disallowed. They've scored 3.
I can't get my head. I, like everybody, said this is Edmonton's year. They're going to learn from past. I don't want to say mistakes, but getting down 3-0 till they finally woke up and made a series certainly didn't help them. I don't even know what to say. I would have predicted Calgary at the bottom of the division, and Edmonton would just come out of the gate just snarly mad. But listen, they did this last year. They were 2-9-1 to start the season last year, and they ended up becoming the best team for the rest of the season from basically Christmas on. So they've got that capability to do that. I think they will figure it out. I'm not overly upset that they're kind of struggling a little bit. And I don't mind seeing Calgary get their due for a little while. I hope it stay. I'm impressed with Calgary. That's great.
Yeah, that Mantha's actually looks like he's fitting in quite well for the Calgary Flames. And from what I've seen, another team that's not doing too well right now, they look really out of place. Actually, some professionals, analysts are saying that they will not turn it around, that they're going to be the team that falls, and that's Colorado Avalanche. How could they be the ones that fall with Nathan McKinnon on that team and Cal Makar?
One word: goaltending sucks. They don't have any goaltending.
Yeah.
Maybe they want Matt Murray, and maybe we'll give them Timothy Liljegren off their hands. I don't know. But no, if you don't have goaltending, I want to talk a bit about. So Jeremy Swayman and Ottinger signed massive contracts. Their mindset is, if goaltending is so important and is the most important position, best penalty killer, got to have goaltending in playoffs. Why aren't we paid 12, 13 million like the Austin Matthews, the Nathan McKinnons, Draisaitl, McDavid? If we're the most important cog, so I kind of see their point, looking at it from a goalie perspective, why they want to push the envelope and say we need to stop making 5 and 6 million. We should be up there 8, 9, even 10 million. Now Shesterkin, by all accounts, wants to somewhere around 11 million, I think. So, but I kind of get their point going. If we're the last wall of defense and you guys put so much emphasis on goaltending, make or break, why aren't we paid like it?
Yeah, I think it was only done once that it went that high, and that's probably Carey Price. And I mean, Montreal got some good years out of him, but they're paying some $10 million seasons that he wasn't around. I mean, I'm sure they got a discount on that, but still, that could be why some teams get scared off from it. As goalies don't last as long as positional players, I guess.
And they don't play 82 games typically, especially now. So I see both sides of it, but also goaltending wins in the playoffs, as we've seen. The Leafs haven't had it. Florida certainly has had it, and the Rangers have had it. So, I mean, if goaltending is so important, maybe aim for 11, but maybe settle for 8, 9, just to get that bar a bit higher for goalies. And that's a big chunk of your salary cap. But if you have a franchise goalie, which we have yet to see if we've got one, but if you've got a Hellebuck, a Nottinger, these are world class goalies. Shesterkin, Bobrovsky. Why not invest a little bit more money in them if you can rely on them?
Yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with you. I'm just looking up a few other points here to help us here. But yeah, there will be a day when that happens, I believe. And they have invented that ceiling so far, as you said. Both Swayman and Ottinger getting matching contracts, 8 years, 8.25 million. So it is bringing it up. But that's a high level for other NHL goalies to get to, because these guys are the top of the game. And Shesterkin, that's who he is, right? If he's the best player on the Rangers, he's probably going to get paid like the best player on that team.
Yeah, and I guess if another goalie says, "Well, I'm the number one goalie in this team," so if Shesterkin's the number one goalie, compare that. If I'm as important as him, maybe he's not as good. Then maybe I'm upwards of 7, 8 million as well. So I can see why teams are a little reluctant to start going there. But I think you're right, Ken. It is inevitable. If it's such an important, coveted position, and finding a franchise goalie isn't easy. We haven't had one for many, many years, as you know. We've been piecemealing it with these, hopefully has-beens and rehabs and end of their career goalies. maybe it's time that we started looking at things differently, and that's invest in the most important position on the ice, which is your goaltender. Build from the net out.
Yeah, I agree. I want to talk about this article here that I'm looking at. It's from Luke Fox. Now, you know who Luke Fox is. He's a
Yep.
Toronto reporter. Now, this line that the Leafs got going here, I guess it's our third line because Tavares is still our second. But Max Domi, Bobby McMahon, and William Nylander. Now, is that the line that we went through with LA? It says Max Domi has, over his past 3 games, he's got 5 assists and he's +6. McMahon, after being sat, he actually leads our team in goals. 3 +5. And William Nylander's had 3 goals and assists and he's a +6. Now, what do you think? Is that a line that we used? What do you think?
That's now our official second line, my man. John Tavares is right where he belongs in the third line center, which is great because we didn't have a really good spot for him. And I think I said last show, third line center is where he is with Pontus Holmberg and Nick Robertson. And we're going to talk about Nick Robertson. Don't let me forget about that. Before we go, you're the master of keeping time for us. But yeah, I love that second line because it's clicking right now. It's working. And it brings a little bit more depth as a third line that gives us more balance in the third line. The third line was always just kind of a knit. It might, it was always just put the cast-offs in the third line, the Urn Croaks and the whoever and whatever. Now, again, you know me, I'm not overly jazzed with Pontus Holmberg, but he's been a defensively responsible player. He's a hard worker. I think I think he's a better option than Calle Järnkrok. And then you got your fourth line, which ain't going anywhere. So,
yeah, I was just looking at another thing here. I got so many of these Twitter things. The Leafs have allowed 6 goals in their last 4 games, so that's pretty good stat as well. That's definitely Craig Berube like. So we're starting to get that north-south thing going on. But yeah, let's turn to Nick Robertson. What would you like to discuss about Mr. Robertson?
Well, Nick Robertson, I thought, was our best player in training camp. He played the most games, and every game was visible. I'm not so sure I've seen that now, but I'm wondering if it's the line he's on, and will he eventually get some reps up on the first or second line? I don't think right now, as it stands, he will. But what happens if he just, once again, doesn't produce on the third line? Do we? You can't put him on the fourth line. He's not scoring right now. Yeah, it's early in the season. I haven't noticed him like I noticed him in training camp. Like he would carry the puck, he'd get chances. He was flying all over the ice. Is he a little bit PO'd because he's on the third line? I don't know.
I think he's happy that he's actually playing on this team. He earned his spot, but yeah, I don't know if he's going to get pushed up to that second line. That means Bobby McMahon's coming down. And there's still Mr. Max Pacioretty that I'm expecting is going to be back in the lineup here on probably Saturday. I would assume Max Pacioretty is going to be back on. Now, that's a really good question, Joe. You got me stumped on that one.
That's something to keep an eye on, is all I'm saying. That if Nick Robertson doesn't start producing in the next 2 or 3 games, you might see him being a healthy scratch in lieu of Pacioretty. That's exactly where I was going with that, just to see. And Pacioretty's got to bring it every night, and we know he's an older player, and even he admits his game dropped off the very last game he played. So I think he's going to be used, accordingly. He's not going to be out there every night. He's going to be used strategically on nights where they think he might make a difference, and I kind of like that. Let's not throw him into every game right now.
This is what I'm sorry to cut you off, but I did listen to a take by Mike Johnson on this situation, this exact thing we're talking about right now. And he said that Nick Robertson, for him to produce, he needs to know that if he goes a few games without scoring, he's not just going to be in and out of the lineup. If he has that, he won't pout and he will produce. That's what Mike Johnson said. And that makes a lot of sense to me. We still have to give him a runway, give him a few more games. It's been 4. Let's give him a couple more. Let's see what he can do. The Leafs are still winning. I think he's playing defensively responsible more than he ever has in his career. So he's buying into Brew Bay hockey, and that's not something that we can slight either.
No, well put, well said. We'll see if it happens. I think if it was Sheldon Keefe, he'd probably be starting to sit. And maybe that's one of the things that we can say that Craig Berube is going to give this guy some runway, give him 10 games. And you're right, it is only 4, and let him know this is your spot. So you're here, you're not going anywhere, you're playing every night. Go out and do what you do best. You've earned your spot. So we'll see how it goes. And again, he needs to stay healthy. And he's just been bad luck as far as his injuries go. So let's keep him healthy and let's see what happens. So, good.
Yeah, we only have a few minutes here left, Joe, but I just want to address our latest interview on That's the Spirit. We do a local Stouffville Spirit radio show, pregame show, and we did one with their play-by-play guy, Chris Mayberry. I hope I didn't upset him too much on my Leaf antics and against his Detroit story. Chris, you haven't made the playoffs in a long time comment, but let's talk about Chris Mayberry a little bit and the enjoyment it was just behind having someone with the knowledge of Chris on our show.
Chris is a class act and always has been, and we're very lucky here in Stouffville to have him as our play-by-play man for sure. He's very knowledgeable, lots of experience. And what I like about Chris is he's not a homer. He likes to look at the game objectively. He knows hockey. He knows sports, a lot of sports. He's not only done hockey, he's done all kinds of other things. Yeah. So he has that ability to not be a fan, but call the game, let the game come to him and call it as he sees it, and not be afraid to say that, what he thinks. And it goes to show you he's not a homer when it comes to the Leafs, because he's a Red Wings fan, which isn't a bad 1B. I'll tell you, they're a great organization. And
he's from Windsor.
And he's from Windsor, but you're a glass half full. I'm a glass half empty when it comes to the Leafs. I'm like, you guys need to start producing. I've been the rose-colored glasses for too many years, and as you know, I'm like, enough's enough. We need to settle for the Stanley Cup, or anything short of that is a failure as far as I'm concerned. And I thought for many years, oh, well, as long as we do this and do that, aka the Blue Jays just get into the postseason, drives me nuts, even though they got smoked badly. The management there seems to think that that's okay because they made it to the postseason, but then embarrassed themselves after that. Anyway, I hate that attitude. We're the Toronto Maple Leafs, damn it, and we should be the best team every year, do what it takes to win. I don't care what we got to do. Sacrifice it because the fans deserve it. It's the best city in Canada. That's why I'm pushing so hard. I'm hard on the Leafs, I know, but enough's enough. I'm this middle of the road stuff, I can't take it. Let's go for the gold once and for all.
Yeah, I agree.
Make the playoffs.
I agree. I cannot argue with you on that at all. Do you want to answer to Chris real quick on your Lions Cowboy game?
Well, unfortunately, my Cowboys have been a disappointment. They started out of the gate really well. They are what they are. To me, it goes to the Jerry Jones, the owner. If he's not willing to do anything and make significant changes, they're going to be what they're going to be. I don't know what the dynamic is there, why they're so reluctant. I like Dak Prescott. He's a good quarterback. I don't think he's proven anything to warrant being the highest paid player. That I thought was a mistake. But they don't have good players surrounding him. They've got some has-beens. And anyway, we'll see. But until they start making some significant moves to change that organization, they're not a Super Bowl contending team. And it's unfortunate because they've been around a long time, a lot of history there, and it's just a waste of good fan base.
There's no Toronto team in the NFL, so I don't really have an allegiance. I bounce from team to team, but let's go Bills. How about that? To finish us
no
up.
Problem. They're not a bad second choice. Local, it's the closest we're going to get. And,
yeah, you're right. My name's Ken, and we're here on Ken's Corner, Sports Timeout with Joe Moyer. Thank you so much, Joe, and tell all your friends we'll be releasing every Friday like usual, and we'll see you next week. Let's hey, you know what? Let's stick it to the same record time, and we'll get as all the max Leaf games in before we end up on here. So
sounds good.
If your schedule does well for that, Joe, we'll continue.
I just want to give a shout out to one of our faithful listeners for the last year and a half, Andy Kemp, former paramedic colleague of mine, Deacon Andy. Thanks for listening. He's one of our loyal followers and looks forward to our show every week. I don't know why. Maybe he just wants to laugh and make fun of us. Who knows? But he said we need to work on your tie. So no tie this week. Good call.
Hair's a little funny too, but that's okay.
Looks good.
And we'll get you a phone that doesn't have a cracked screen.
Yeah, we're going to have to hit the old store this week and get that fixed.
There you go. All right. We'll talk to you soon, Joe. My name's Ken, and we're here on Ken's Corner one more time with Joe Moyer. Sports Timeout. We'll see you next week.